Hello and welcome back to another episode of our Q&A series. This is actually going to be the final episode of 2021 and we look forward to doing this series a bit more regular in 2022. I think people are starting to get their questions sent in and I really appreciate it to all of you who have asked some questions during 2021. It's been incredible to do this series and some of the questions have been really interesting and actually made me think a bit deeper about certain aspects of the business or certain things, and I do appreciate it. And don't forget, you can submit your questions ready for next year by either leaving them down in the comment section, emailing us at info@kibblewatches.co.uk, or keep an eye on our Instagram, also at KibbleWatches, where we put up on our stories stating that there's going to be a Q&A video. Ask your questions and you can fill it out in the box. That's the best way to do it. And don't forget, it doesn't just have to be about watches or business, it can be about anything. This is sort of a way for us to all get to know each other a little better, which I think is quite fun. But yeah, we've got some questions from you guys and girls today. A couple of people who want to stay anonymous, which you can request if you don't want your name said out loud, that's not a problem. Now, if I did miss your question, I do apologise. I'm trying to limit it to about 5 to 7 questions altogether, just so it doesn't drag on too long of a video, because I have to edit these and they do take a little while. But anyway, the first question is from Rahul Karavadra 89. Apologies, I'm probably going to butcher everyone's name in this video. That's what I do. He asks, what is the most slept on watch that everybody ignores that you rate? Great question. I think rather than a specific watch, I would say a specific brand, and it's vintage, Mido and Movado. I've been saying it for all of this year, all of 2021. I think 2020 is going to be the year where people start going like, shit, we need to start paying attention to this brand, because I really believe there's going to be a big increase in those watches. And I'm not talking every single one. Of course, there's some watches from them in the vintage world which are nothing that particularly special to talk home about, but they have so many incredible references, all the way from, for example, we've had some Valjoux 72 chronograph versions of them. We've had multiple Francois Bourgel cases from them that are incredible quality, incredible finishing. We've got an oversized Mido at 37.5mm actually on the website. It was a personal watch for a while, and I'm amazed it's still there. And it just goes to show people haven't woken up yet to the brand, their quality, their finishing, and also their historical relevance. So I'd say if you're on the lookout for something that you think is going to be fantastic, I really do think it's going to be like the next Universal Geneve. We all remember the pole rotor back when you could get it for an absolute bargain. There's no chance of that anymore. Those days are long gone. And I think we'll be looking at the same with some of the Midos and Movados. So keep an eye out for those. In terms of a specific watch to actually answer your question, it's very difficult to pinpoint one watch because there's so many great watches out there that I think are fantastic value and I think people often overlook. But I would probably say the Oris Aquis line. I think a lot of those watches, especially when you look at the price on the pre-owned market compared to the retail price, I think there's quite a big difference. Not in the grand scheme of things, but in terms of the quality of what you get at pre-owned, I think it's insane. I think there's not a lot that actually comes close to the Aquis line. Next question from Boyo Destiny. I think that's how it's pronounced. Love the selection, thank you very much. What kind of things do you consider when buying a watch for stock? Fantastic question. There are multiple things to consider when buying watches in for stock. The first thing I want is obviously most of the information I can possibly get. Reference, serial, age, box and papers, condition. All these things are obviously going to factor into what I'm willing to pay for a watch. But beyond that, I also want to know what my downside is and my risk of stocking this watch. For example, if we buy in a vintage Omega, like a vintage Seamaster, I'm willing to pay stronger for a vintage Seamaster than I am a vintage Rado, for example. And this is just random things, like random examples. Not specifics. I'm sure there's some Rados I will pay very strong for and have done. But the point is, vintage Omega Seamaster, I can predict exactly what I'm probably going to sell that for. I've probably even got people in mind who want one. It won't be on the website for too long, and if it is, it's a good stock to have, as in it's not a bad thing. So I will pay stronger for that. Whereas a vintage Rado, a bit more tricky. It might be still incredibly well valued. It might be beautiful, but vintage Rado doesn't have the same clout, if you will, as Omega. So because of those reasons, I have to account that into what I'm willing to pay for a watch, because the longer I keep a watch, the more it's technically costing me, because you've got to think of our insurance, our safe, and it's such minute things when you really narrow it down to a daily cost per watch. But it sounds so silly. You really do have to take into account those kind of things, because if you're stuck with a watch that for 6 to 8 months, like there's a cost to that. There's also a more difficulty of sale once you've had a watch that long. So if a watch brand is being offered to me that I know is going to take a while, sometimes it's either better not to buy it at all or offer consignment, as we do with some of the more harder to sell brands or the more interesting brands that most watch dealers won't buy. We at least will try and help you where we can, because we've built up a community around the weird and wonderful stuff, which is what I love. So that's sort of the things to consider. Obviously, your core things that everyone should be considering when they're buying a watch anyway, you know, condition, has it got a scratched crystal, is the dial original, the hands replaced, you know, all these kind of different things that of course we also look at. But on a deeper level, we have to look at the whole stocking costs, as I call it, and take into account those factors. Next question is from Chris3081. He says, if you could do a collaboration with another YouTuber, who would it be? Great question. There's a lot of YouTubers out there I would like to do collaborations with, and hopefully in 2022, you'll be seeing a few of those actually become real, because there's some small discussions going on at the moment. We'll see what comes of them. But in terms of anyone I would like to do a collaboration with, it would be Roman Scharf of Luxury Bazaar. I've looked up to that man for a very long time. I had the privilege of meeting him at the London Watch Show, and we spent some quite quality time actually talking away at my booth there, which was incredible for him to, you know, pinpoint some of the brands we had and the watches, and to give me actual specific advice based on what we stock. And some of his advice actually, realizing it now, we're actually going to put into practice in 2022. Which is quite interesting, really. We'll see how that goes. But I just think he's an incredible businessman, for one. He's a great watch dealer, and he also comes across and seems like in person to be a very, very nice person, which I think is more than anything in terms of this trade. You know, you've got to be a good person to go far, in my opinion. So I'd love to do a collaboration video with him. In what regard? Maybe even just you know, like an interview style, just so I can ask him the questions I want to ask him and find the nuggets of information I want personally. So it would be a very selfish collaboration in that regard, but I think it'd be really cool. So hopefully, maybe we can get that done in 2022, who knows? Next question is from Joe_LLW. Will you only ever be a watch dealer, or will you start doing articles, your own straps, etc.? Thank you for the question, very good question. So, this is something I have toyed with probably for about 2 years, and I'm sure I'll continue to toy with for a long time. We at Kibble Watches, in my opinion, are watch dealers. That's what we do, it's what we're good at. We find interesting watches, and even the mainstream stuff, when we get it in, we sell it. That's why people come to us, they can trust us, they know our expertise, and they know what we're good at. Are we leather people who know about all kinds of leather and fantastic straps? No. I mean, do we have a basic knowledge of that kind of stuff to be able to advise and help? Definitely, I think we do, and I think we're learning more as the weeks go on, really, as we start stocking more straps and start learning about stitch densities and all this kind of different stuff. I'm definitely researching more, but in terms of being a quote expert in that field, definitely not. I think you hand me a vintage Amiga, I'm going to know far more all day long than I will about any leather or anything else in that regard. So for that reason, we stick to what we're good at. Will that ever change? Potentially. In terms of articles, it's something we have toyed with in the past on the website, but back when it was really just me doing everything. So I was doing all this, I was doing the editing, I was doing the photography, and like the whole aspect of the business. And also doing articles or doing anything for that matter on top of all that, just I couldn't stick to it. It was impossible. Whereas now we're getting to a point where I am starting to get a bit more free time. We're starting to get people who are specific to certain things. For example, Danny with the photography. We're starting to get people on the accounting side. So it's not just me doing all the bookkeeping and all the invoicing and everything like that. So things are starting to free up, and it's starting to become more of a structured business. You have to excuse the noises. So for that reason, there is potential there. Is it something I want to do? Yes, I would very much like to have articles on the website. I'd very much like us to do more marketing and media aspects, which we're trying to do more of. And that's only going to develop over time. But in regards to what we're always going to be, we're always going to be a watch dealer. First and foremost, we're going to be selling watches. We're going to be an expert in that field. And that's going to be what we focus on. But there will always be other aspects that we're hoping to do. In terms of next year and what we're going to be doing in that regard, there is no plans right now for us to have our own branded straps. There may be an opportunity for a co-branded strap in regards to us collaborating with someone who does fantastic work. That's very much on the cards, but in terms of our own actual goods, there isn't anything really, other than potentially like watch pouches and cleaning cloths, but they won't be for sale. They'll just be something we provide with a sale, if that makes sense. that aspect, and also media, so more videos, more content, more creation in that regard. There's definitely plans for that in 2022 as well, so expect all that. Next question is from 2guys_plus watches. He actually asked 2 questions. So first question is, consignment for USA customers possible? It is possible, but logistically it's an absolute nightmare, and then VAT and tax wise it also becomes a nightmare, because we're consigning, basically buying eventually a watch from the USA, which involves a tax process. And then we're selling it here in the UK, which involves a completely different tax process. So it wouldn't really work out logically for you or for me financially, especially when in the US you have fantastic people already doing consignment. It's very difficult for me to ever compete with that in regards to a different country, different tax process, and I'd have to charge you a lot more than I would charge a UK customer. Unfortunately, that's just the way it goes with international trade. It's getting even more so like that because of Brexit. Regardless of where you stand, it's just, yeah, whatever. So no, unfortunately, it's not something we are offering. Maybe one day that could change, but right now that is definitely not on the cards, I'm afraid. I would recommend reaching out, depending on what the watch is, to obviously Luxury Bazaar. They actually offer consignment, and I'm sure there's many others as well that you could find. But next question, favorite watch from 2021? And he says, take care during the holidays. Thank you, and I hope you all have a fantastic holiday season as well. Definitely relax, I know I intend to. So favorite watch from 2021. This is on the spot because I actually didn't bother reading these questions. I just copied them out, so my apologies. I would say my favorite watch of this year is actually a watch I've handled a couple of times, and it's not a watch I intend to own, which might sound quite surprising, but it's the new Tissot, is it the PRX? Is that the one? Yes. So Danny's over there. Thank you, Danny. So the PRX, the integrated bracelet, because in quartz I think it's like £295, which is just bonkers, and the finishing, the quality, I think it's so good. And yes, it's a homage, whatever. Who cares? At the end of the day, it is a well-built watch, a really good-looking watch, and I know multiple people, because they've emailed me, who have actually bought that watch recently, and it's what's kickstarted their watch collecting. That is a good thing in and of itself, regardless of what you think of design. So I'm all for it. I think that gets my vote of watch of 2021. And I'd love to know, what is your favorite watch of 2021? Let me know down in the comments. I'm excited to hear it because you're going to have more of an opportunity to think about it than I just did. So I'm interested to hear what you say. Next up, we have 2 questions from someone who wants to remain anonymous. He says, how much do you make on a watch? 20%, 30% question mark. And he says he asked this because he's wanting to maybe get into the industry one day. He said in a separate message, I think he's at college or something at the moment, sort of considering career paths. I would say, in terms of how much we make on a watch, 20-30%, very rarely. Occasionally we do. If we're buying in a vintage watch and we've got very lucky, maybe at auction, and it's been a bad day for the auctions and they've not had enough people bidding, we might get lucky and we might make more than 30% in some very rare occasions. But for the most part, when you add everything up and you look at what our actual average percentage is, we average out anywhere between 9 and 13%, it seems like, most years. So when you really sort of look at it, that's how much we're making. And obviously what you've then got to do is take off all the costs, associated costs. Our VAT, which is margin based, so we pay VAT on the margin, which here in the UK is 20%. So to put that simply, if we make £1,000 on a watch, we're technically paying about £200 in VAT on that. So we're down to £800. And then you take off all the other associated costs, our rent here, the insurance costs, the photography costs, all these different things, staff costs, my own bills, right? You know, all these things you have to take into account. So I think if you're wanting to get into this industry on a purely monetary basis, as in to earn money and that's the only outcome, the only goal, I wouldn't recommend it, because I think you're gonna get sort of bummed out pretty quick in this industry, because there's never really actually that much money flowing around. And one interesting thing I see is, and for those of you who watch the Roman Shafts videos and even Timepiece Gentlemen and all the other ones, you will very clearly see them buying a watch, for example, for £34,000 and selling it for £36,000. That's a £2,000 profit. I mean, do the math, you can see what the percentage is on that, and that's very low. So this is an industry of huge profits, but it's an industry of usually quick turnarounds. So you might only make £2,000 on a £34,000 investment, but you could recycle that quite a few times, and all of a sudden, yes, you're looking at more money. But usually not in the realm of buying Lamborghinis and Ferraris like most of these watch dealers on YouTube seem to be at the moment. It doesn't usually get to that that level for most of us. Hopefully that answers your question. What's going on with Tiffany OP Prices, so the Oyster Perpetual Rolex? Notice you haven't said anything on social media. It's quite sad when something is so spoken about that if I don't speak about it, that's noticed rather than me speaking about it, if that makes sense. So this Tiffany OP craze at the moment, the people are asking like 50, 60,000 pounds on Chrono 24. I'm seeing some people asking like over 100 grand. The reason I haven't spoke about it is because it's bullshit, basically. Let's call it what it is, it's bullshit. What is happening is there's some watch dealers out there that have all slowly started to increase their price, they've all followed each other, and now they've got them listed up here. And then what you've got is collectors, actual owners of these watches, starting to ask dealers what it's worth, saying, well, I want £80,000 for mine because it's fully stickered and all this. And the truth is no one's paying those prices. There is not, as far as I'm aware, and I'm in multiple dealer chats, which have actually just been speaking about it non-stop recently, not a single person has actually sold any of these Tiffany Blue Dial OPs, which isn't really Tiffany Blue actually, for £50,000 plus. Not a single one. I think some have sold in the high 20s to sort of around £30,000, which already in itself is bonkers. But those crazy inflated prices we're seeing on Chrono 24 are not real selling prices. And I saw someone recently put that a list price and a sell price are two different things. And I have to state this oftentimes to people when they're quoting Chrono 24 prices. That is what people are listing them for. It doesn't necessarily mean they're selling for that. So don't ever think you see a list price of 12, 13, 15,000 pounds and that's what your watch is worth. Because in 9 times out of 10 with Chrono 24, that is not the case. And we use Chrono 24, but I don't like Chrono 24 for exactly that reason. It's a very unrealistic, hyperinflated marketplace for watches because of mostly the fees that Chrono 24 charge. For example, if I sell a watch on Chrono 24, I'm probably going to get charged about 6%, which is a freaking large amount of my margin. So for the most part, we add that price onto the price on Chrono 24. That's why if you go on Chrono 24 and my website, you'll often see discrepancies in the prices because I don't want to stomach that price if you want Chrono 24's protection because we're an authorized, seller, if you will. We're tried and tested and trusted. So that's why. But the reason I haven't spoke about it is bullshit. It's not worth talking about because every single person talking about it is just inflating the problem really because it's becoming more and more exposed. More and more dealers are seeing it and therefore changing their prices too because they think that's what they're going to get. And more collectors thinking their watch is now worth that. It's not good for the industry, it's not good for the market, and all it means is there's going to be a steep correction in price when all these dealers are stuck with these watches realizing they're not selling for that price. If the watches never end on a consumer's wrist, it's a circle jerk of watches basically between dealers, and that's never going to end well. We saw it with the Hoya market a couple of years ago. Hoyas were getting higher and higher and higher and higher in price. It was crazy. But it was selling from dealer to dealer, auction house to dealer, and not a single watch was ending up on the wrist of consumers at those crazy prices. So obviously comes the time where all these dealers are looking at each other, all with all these Hoyas going, what the hell have we done? We've got like 10 more sitting in the safe, we've paid through the roof, and no one's buying them. And then very quickly they get dumped on the market starts to dip, and we end up at a correction. I think the same is going to happen with the Blue Dial OP. I don't see why anyone would pay that kind of money for that, when for that kind of price you're getting onto the realm of like solid gold Daytonas. I mean, it just seems bonkers to me. So let me know if you know of anyone who's spent 50 grand on the OP. Send them my way. I can sell them some stuff for way over the price as well. So nice one. Final question. Hopefully this isn't too long of an episode. So it's from Felix4545. Thank you, Felix. Hope you're well. Seeing your awesome growth and also watching the TBG channel on YouTube, Timepiece Gentleman that is, do you have aspirations to grow your business to the point where you have an office but also a showroom style boutique, almost where you have sales staff and people who can walk in off the street? I think it'd be brilliant. So thank you for the question. In regards to that aspect, obviously we have this office now, we have appointment only, we have this showroom. In regards to the way they do it, I don't want to do it the way they do it, definitely not. But I do see the potential in a few years for us to grow. We're going to outgrow this office eventually, and we're going to have to move into a bigger place, which means I do think there's going to be multiple rooms. So we'll have, you know, a safe room, we'll have an office, and then we will probably have a nice seating area. I don't know about having all the watches on display. I've sort of gone off that idea over the years just for security reasons, and also knowing insurance costs of that kind of stuff is eye-watering. I don't think people realise. And I also think a lot of dealers aren't actually insuring themselves to the correct amounts. Not all of them. It sounds like a very drastic thing to say, but the reason being, looking at what I know margins are in this industry and how much they want to charge if we did that, I just don't see how most of these dealers are affording that. It just doesn't add up mathematically. So, no, I have no intentions of having a showroom with everything on display and sales staff sitting there waiting for people to come in. It's not the way I like to do it. I would rather have more intimate one-on-one appointments with people, showing them what they want to see and just giving them a better quality of time. It's worked really well for us here, and I think it's where the future of this kind of sales is. It's more intimate, it's more personal. It's also more premium at the end of the day. If you're spending 10, 15 grand, you want to be treated well. You want to be feeling like you're the one being given the attention at that moment. Whereas if, I know this from retail days, in the sales environment where commissions are involved, you often have people bouncing around people to try and find who's going to spend the most money, rather than giving people the best quality service. So I don't see that happening for us. It seems to work very well for them, fair play, but for us, definitely not, but we will definitely outgrow this eventually. As Danny just said, no photography room, I said. So there will be a photography room as well. We're going to have so many rooms. There's going to be so many rooms. And if not, we'll put in a false wall with a little door for him. It'll be like under the stairs. But there you have it, guys and girls. I hope you've enjoyed the final Q&A of 2021. Any other questions, let us know down in the comments and we'll answer next year. But yeah, it's been a lot of fun. I hope you all have a fantastic Christmas, a fantastic New Year. Whether you celebrate or not, enjoy it. Have a little bit of relaxing time. Have a drink on us as well. I will certainly be having a drink on all, what do I have, 9,500 followers on Instagram. So that's going to be a lot of drinks that I'm going to have, and I have no choice, you see. It's got to be done. So thank you all very much for watching. We'll see you all again very soon. Take care.